Grand Risings. Hope your day's starting off great and you've done all the things that you want to do to make yourself happy, to make your day go amazing. So far, it's early, yeah. You never know what could happen. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about my weekend away. My weekend away was amazing. I had a great time. Not that I'm going to tell you about all my times away, because I do lots of things, but this one was pretty cool. I went to something a bit different. I took my son to, you've already seen the photos I put up. We went to the York Minster. We went to see a classical concert. It was pretty cool. It was, see, I've always said Haydn. But I heard somebody at the concert say Haydn. So I was like, oh, have I been saying it wrong this whole time? But I'm pretty certain that's what my piano teacher called him, like when I was a kid. Maybe I remembered it wrong. Maybe I just read it and I just said what I wanted to say. Maybe he kept correcting me and I don't remember that. I don't know. But I'm going to stick to Haydn because that's what I've always said. And I don't think my mouth's going to let me say Haydn now. So, there you go. Anyway, we went to see this. It was very cool. It was a classical musical interpretation of God's creation, of the creation story. It was pretty cool, actually. I've heard it, like bits of it on the radio and stuff. But to do it like in the Minster, wow. Like the Minster's like, whoa, just to see it from the outside is pretty impressive. I'd not been in before, because you have to pay to get in, and I don't want to pay to get in. So I thought, if I'm going to have to pay to get in, I might as well go and see a concert, right? And it was really, really cool. I took my son. We sat separately because I wanted to focus on it. And just be in it without having, somebody else's energy that I knew and was aware of next to me, like sort of interfering with my experience. And it was really cool, actually. It was really nice. And obviously, because it was a classical concert, I suppose this is the main point of my video. It's not the concert that I went to, but with it being a classical concert, and it had the singers. It had 3 singers. It had a woman doing the soprano, and then 2 guys doing baritone and stuff. And they played the roles of angels, speaking about what was going on. There was Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel, and then at the end, 2 of them took the roles of Adam and Eve, which was very cool. Yeah, it was done by York Musical Society, I think. Yeah, York Musical Society. It says on here. York Musical Society, just so I get it right. I don't want to get it wrong. But yeah, so I turned up at the Minster. And there's lots of fancy people turning up in their suits and their pretty dresses. And Kiatara turns up. And so I was actually I did get quite a few looks, and actually, do you know what? It was very similar to the experiences that I always have. Is actually the people that you think are going to judge you don't actually tend to judge you. They tend to be a lot more open-minded than you think, and it actually tends to be, unfortunately, a lot of younger people that you'd think wouldn't judge, but do quite heavily. So I was, my son turned up in a skirt. My son turned up in a skirt with all his piercings and stuff. Why not? And I turned up like this with no shoes on. I had my baggy trousers on and no shoes. And Actually, no, I wasn't wearing baggy trousers. That was the day after. I was wearing a dress. I wore a dress, but I had it all tucked into my pants. It looked like an old-fashioned dress. It was pretty cool, actually. So that was a mistruth. I was wearing a dress. Fancy. But not because it was a performance thing. It was because it was fucking boiling. It was roasting. It was absolutely roasting. I was dying. Anyway, it turned up, and I was expecting, you know, and I did get quite a few like, oh, but actually more looks of interest, and like, there's quite a lot of old people, you know, and religious people there, and churchy people. And you know what? They were bloody lovely. I was expecting there maybe a little bit more hostility than I got. Probably get a lot more hostility on YouTube from people that probably look like, you know, they wouldn't give you hostility in the street. Keyboard warriors, eh? Safe behind your computers. Fucking tell it to my face, I tell you, you wouldn't bother. But I had some really nice conversations with some very old, posh people. It was very nice. I had this one lady came up to me. Beautiful, beautiful being. She was. She must have come to about here on me. She must have been about 90. At least. And she came up to me and she went, oh, excuse me. And she had a very nice little, like, suit on. It was very posh, like, looked like it cost more than my entire wardrobe. And she was pointing to this tattoo here. And she went, oh, is this from Borneo? Have you been to Borneo? Did you have this done in Borneo? I was like, no. Actually, I designed it myself. Like, you know, I just have a few, like, you know, templates, and sort of put them in a place, and then I did little bits in between, and made it all myself. Really, I said it was obviously gifted from within, and yeah, I just did it. I just did the thing. And she was like, oh, well, it's very interesting. She said, you see, I used to live in Borneo. And, see, the people there, they tattoo themselves, you see. And it's very, very similar to the tattoos that they have. So I thought you might have been travelling to Borneo. She was so fucking cute. So lovely. And we had a lovely conversation. Like, how interesting to look at this old lady. You'd not have thought, like, wow, she's been to Borneo. Lived in Borneo. Like, honestly, you should talk to old people more, because they've got some fucking interesting stories, and they will surprise you. Very much surprise you. I was in Ireland once, waiting outside Aldi for the fucking shop to open. It was a Sunday. And I was waiting for the shop to open. And outside was this very old man on a very old looking bike. And he just looked like a regular Irish guy. And he started taking interest in my tattoos and and my baggy trousers, I think I was wearing at the time. And he asked me if I'd, like, been to Morocco. I'm sure it was Morocco. I can't even remember now. I'm sure it was Morocco. It was Morocco. And I was like, no, I've never been to Morocco. I'm sure it's a lovely place to go, though. You know, I'd love to go. We had this conversation, and he starts telling me about this like thing that happened to him. He was living in London, and when he was younger, right, and he happened to meet a guy when he was, you know, out and about in the streets of London. He was asking basically if he knew anywhere that he could stay, like a B&B or something. He'd literally just come from, I can't remember where it was, he said. I think it was like, it probably was actually Morocco. I think that's why he was asking me if it was Morocco. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a country. And it's a country that's not England or Ireland. It was a predominantly Muslim country. I remember that. And I think it was Morocco. Just for the sake of the story, we'll say it's Morocco. Anyway, this guy's asking him, like, where he can stay. And he's like, oh, you're not going to find anywhere now. Not at this time of night. Like, come stay with us. And anyway, so he let this guy stay in his house, and like he brought him home. Like said to his missus, like he was telling me the story outside Aldi. Again, he was probably in his 80s. This guy still riding a bike, amazing, love it. And he said, "Oh, he was such a lovely guy. We let him stay for 3 months." And you've got to imagine he was saying this in a very thick Irish accent, so it was very cool. And he's like, "Oh yeah, we let him stay for about 3 months." And he eventually found somewhere to stay. Hey Freya, you okay, darling?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm just chatting shit, as usual.
It's early in the morning?
Always this early in the morning. Anyway, so he says, we let him stay for 3 months, and then he found somewhere that was a bit more suited, and he tootled off, and didn't really hear much from him after that. And then we got a letter in the post about a year later with some tickets to Morocco, and an invite to a wedding. And yeah, apparently, basically the dad of this guy had like said, "Oh, thank you for looking after my son. Here's some plane tickets, and here's an invite to the wedding for you and your wife and your family." So see you later, darling. It's my daughter. She's up early, and yeah, he got given some plane tickets and an invite to a wedding. And he said it was the best time we had. It was really cool. We went to this wedding and they put us up, and we had free tickets there, and they fed us, and it was like just amazing. It was an amazing experience, and you've never seen so many beautiful things. And again, like, you know, to look at this guy, you would not have thought, one, that, you know, he's travelled around and it was just to do all those beautiful, amazing, cool things. And then the guy that, like, you know, I was sat next to at the concert, the classical concert thing, the Hayden Hayden. Sat next to him, and we had a conversation about the concert that was going on in the interval. He was, again, you know, he was quite an old guy, and he was very posh. He was like, "Oh, are you enjoying the concert?" I'm like, "Yes, I am, thank you very much." And got on to, like, you know, all the things, chatting about the thing, and I asked him if he played an instrument, and he said, "Oh no, I haven't played since I was a child. I used to play the violin. In fact, I used to play concerts here." And again, you know, it's an amazing thing to think, like, sat next to a guy who, you know, as a child played concerts in the Minster, played violin in the Minster. All these things that people do that we don't really think about, and we look at people in the street and we don't think about all the cool, amazing things that they could have possibly done. You know. And another guy came up, another very posh guy, started telling me how cool I look. So, "You look very interesting. I had to come over and, like, talk about your tattoos because they're very interesting." And then he went, "Oh, where are your shoes?" I went, "Oh, I don't wear shoes." And he went, "Oh, you're doing that earthing thing?" I was like, "Oh, there's many reasons." Anyway, we started talking about the church and music, and he turns out he's a radio person, does radio things, Radio York stuffs, and churchy things, church music things. He was quite interested. We had a really cool conversation, and about, you know, just things that we both do. Just opening it up, you know, having conversations with people that I probably would never have a conversation with, like, in my day-to-day life. That's why it's really important that we do things that, like, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, I didn't go to a concert that I was, like, not interested in. I love classical music. People probably look at me and don't assume that. And there you go. I love classical music. It's one of my favourite kinds of music. It's one of the most emotionally evoking things that I can do, like, to sit and listen to a classical piece. I mean, my favourite instruments, I would say, are probably violin and piano. I was, you know, classically trained in the piano as a child for 11 years. And again, people don't, like, probably look at me and they don't assume that either. But actually, yeah, there's a lot of things about people that you probably wouldn't know or assume just to look at them. You know, it's really important that we have these conversations with people. It's really important that we go to places that you know, although we might not feel like we belong to, or like, you know, are out of our familiar zone, we probably have a lot more in common with people than we think, that look a lot different to us. And then, like the next day, when we was in York, I got a bit sidetracked about the guy from going to the Morocco thing. It's just that woman being in Borneo, like, reminded me of that guy. I went off on a tangent. But back to my weekend away. Yeah, I had I was sitting, we spent the morning out tootling around York, doing the thing. And we stopped to have some lunch. We sat down in the middle of the centre, like the town. Well, not in the middle, but, you know, in a bit in the town, in the city. And me and my son were just sat eating lunch. And this guy came over and he was like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm a photographer and I like to take photos of people, and here's my card and whatnots, and I'm a hobbyist. I do it as a job, but I also like to do things, you know, take photos just for interest, to, you know, do the thing, put it on my Instagram, do the thing." Go on then. I don't mind if people ask. I get a lot of people taking photos when they think I'm not looking. That's quite funny, especially my feet. I'm assuming that they're Snapchatting or putting it on some sort of story. I'm going, ooh, there's feet. Like, there's any difference between that and flip-flops? Oh, fucking hell. Doesn't matter. Anyway, I don't mind if people ask. But yeah, this guy that took my photos, started having a conversation with him, and turns out he's like a fellow, like, we looked totally different as well. Again, this guy, like, you know, to have put us next to each other, you would think we had nothing in common. Yeah, turns out he's a fellow barefooter, a veteran of like 10 years. 10 years. And does it for very similar reasons to me. Like, I started doing mine mainly for like chronic pain. I have a condition. And it was, yeah, we had a good conversation about that and how he experiences his condition and how barefooting helps him. And on that particular day, he was wearing shoes because he was going out and about doing the hobby thing and didn't know where it was going to take him, and he wanted to focus on doing his photography and stuff, and that's fair enough. Yeah, it was quite a cool sort of conversation. I met a lot of people that looked very different to me, and we actually had a lot in common, and it was nice. It was nice finding that common ground with everybody. I mean, everybody, like, we've all got differences, don't get me wrong. We've all got things that we probably won't agree on. We've all got things that are completely opposite ends of the spectrum of our experience of this reality. But there is also a lot of things that will be common and similar and the same about our experience of this reality. And, you know, we tend as humans to focus on the things that we disagree on. We tend to focus on the differences and on the opposites, and but actually, there's so many things that we have in common. If we was to share those common interests and those common stories and just open up our hearts and open up our minds to the concept that someone that's come from a completely different culture or class, I hate that word, or, you know, education system, or, you know, or country, or, you know, age even, you know, or just lots of different things. Gender, sexuality, all the things that could be different. Just open up your heart and your mind, and I can guarantee you will find a subject that you can agree on, that you have both experienced, that you have both had similar experiences on, or have the same opinions on even. You know, not that we shouldn't, you know, have opposite opinions, like, you know, just don't focus on them. Don't see them as like, oh, that's a reason to not have a conversation with someone. Oh, that's a reason to dislike that person. You know, there's loads of similarities between people. I had a really nice time at the classical concert, and the Minster was so beautiful that I actually went back in the morning, the next morning, and went to the service. I went to the Chorus Martis, it's called. I think it was just like morning prayer, but it's sung. Like, it was really nice. If you, I highly recommend it. You know, if you if you're into the gods and the higher powers and the universal creator source thing, highly recommend. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself to be a Catholic or a Christian, but I do have a belief in a higher power and in spirituality and universe and in the bigger picture that's bigger than me, bigger than little old Kiyotara. Yeah, it was very beautiful. It was very beautiful to have the choir singing and, you know, experience prayer with other people. But I would highly recommend it, going to the service and listening and sitting and listening to the beautiful choir. They were amazing, very beautiful, and the inside of it is very amazing, very beautifully sculpted and carved and intricate, and yeah, the acoustics in there, wow, fucking top notch. Yeah. Anyway, that was just a little bit about my weekend, about, you know, how amazing it was and how I experienced it. Tickling me. About how I met some amazing people and interesting, cool people that, you know, they could have judged me and I could have judged them, and I didn't, and it was nice. I had a really good time. And that's that. There you go. I hope you have a great day. And look forward to the next rambling.